Hey guys, welcome to the channel. We're a Canadian homesteading and how-to channel based out of Niagara Falls, Canada. And today we're working on my wife's 2011 Jeep Compass. All right, this is the 2.4 liter inline 4. It's got that fancy CVT transmission in it, which we all love. Got about 150,000 kilometers on it, so you know, it's been around the bend a little bit. I'm just trying to do a little preventative maintenance on it. So today's video is going to be fairly in-depth. We're going to be changing the fluid and the transmission filter. We're also going to be changing the transmission cooler filter. There's two filters on this transmission, okay? So, you know, if you're just doing the original filter on the bottom, you're not doing it right. You want to get both filters done, right? And you want to make sure you got the proper fluid level. This is my first time doing the transmission service, so I am learning, but I don't anticipate any issues. So first thing we got to do, you know, we got to get the vehicle up on some jacks. I've got it on some ramps right now. It's been sitting overnight, so everything's cool. I'm going to get an extra large oil drain pan, I got a big one, and then I'm going to put a smaller one in that, and then I'm going to start removing the bolts, drain the fluid. Okay, I'm going to catch all the fluid in there. We're going to go up, remove the battery box so that we can get at the oil cooler, okay? The filter on the side of the transmission, and I'll show you that in a minute here. And then we're going to pull that out, we're going to change that, button that all back up, go back underneath. We're going to button all the pan back together with the new filter, and then we're going to start adding our fluid. So what I'm choosing to do on my vehicle is I'm going to measure all the cold fluid that came out. I'm going to put the exact same amount back in, and then I'm going to go ahead and start doing my my measuring, because we're going to need a long measuring dipstick, or I've heard you can actually take the oil dipstick out, clean it off, and use that as your indicator. Essentially, this transmission filter kit that I bought, and I'll show you a link in the description, it comes with some instructions on how to measure the fluid, because you do need an ODB2 scanning tool with an app so that you can accurately measure the transmission temperature, okay? So once you know the transmission temperature, you can pull the dipstick out and you can see where you lie on the low or the high range. So, you know, it is a little bit intimidating, but like I said, I don't anticipate on any issues. I've done my Ram 1500 Eco Diesel with the, you know, what does that call that? Lifetime fluid. Supposedly very difficult, but we managed to get that done with no issues. So, yeah, we'll just go ahead and get after it, okay? So I'll go over the necessary tools as we go through the video. It is going to be a little bit more lengthy, so make sure you got either a coffee or a beer, depending on what time of day it is. The sun's up right now, so I'm going to mix myself a Java, and we'll get after it. Alright, so the first order of business here, once you've got your vehicle up, you can remove the tires. It'll probably be a lot easier for you. There's going to be a bunch of bolts under here. I believe they're 10 millimeter. This will hold the splash guard on, okay? There's probably 6 or 8 of these bolts here, okay? So go ahead and remove all these bolts, and you can wiggle the splash guard down. There's push pins actually next to the wheel well, 2 on each side, okay? So when you remove your tires, you just push these little clips in, and then this splash guard is going to fall off. The reason I'm not taking mine off is because my clips actually broke and I zip tied them, so I can actually go up and cut my zip ties with the tires on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So on the left side of the engine, next to the engine here, on the left side, the transmission is, okay? It's the one, it's just, you know, long skinny pan with a bunch of bolts going around it, okay? And you can see the transmission's mounted up there. The front axle goes right through it. So here's my giant oil pan that I was talking about. I really don't want to lose any fluid, because I want a really good accurate reading, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get my, I believe it's 10 millimeter, and I'll start, what I'm going to do is kind of like a kind of like a tire. I'm going to start in the middle and just work my way out and around. I'm going to break all the torque, and then I'm going to start removing the bolts from the back of the pan forward, and that's going to let this fluid slowly start to creep around. It should kind of come out the back side and kind of out through all the seals, but towards the back of the SUV. All right, so yeah, these are 10 millimeter. Like I said, I'm going to start. Now, because I got this giant pan here, it's kind of a pain in the nuts, but go ahead, loosen that one. There's really not much torque on these, okay? Like, they should be in the neighborhood of, I think it's 7 or 8 pounds. All right, so I got some slow drips, so I'm going to shut the camera off here, but essentially I'm just going to work it back and just let the fluid drop into the pan here best it can, okay? Alright, so it looks to me like I've got the perfect size square pan here. I'm not missing any, hardly. There we go. So it's just about being patient now. I'm just going to let that do its thing, and hopefully it doesn't fill this pan up. I know I've put 12 liters in this, and it was just maxed out before it started making a mess. So just thinking, while we're waiting for the fluid to drain, why don't we start removing this battery box here. So this should be pretty straightforward if you've never cleaned your air filter before, but basically you remove this, it says here, remove for battery access to wing nuts. Take that out of there, and your access to your battery here. We'll go ahead, probably get an 8 millimeter here, get these negative off first and the positive, pull the battery out. Alright, once you've got your negative and then your positive off, it's a 13 millimeter down here. I got a long socket. Basically it's a battery, kind of like a holder, a little wedge. This is an original battery, Chrysler Group LLC. A shitty spot for a battery, to be honest with you. Holy Christ. Alright, so got the battery out of there. Serious rust down in here, so I'm just going to spray some PB Blaster on these bolts. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. I removed the actual nut. That little wing nut that holds the battery on, remove that because I think that goes right through to the frame somehow to keep the whole battery box attached. Alright, well that was a serious pain in the nuts. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 easy ones, and then there's this like stud that protrudes out from the frame through the box with what can only be described as the rustiest nut ever. So quite a bit of penetrating fluid. I didn't want to break nothing, so happy I got that out without snapping the head off the bolt. So I'm gonna wiggle this tray out. Alright, so here's your oil cooler, right? So there's 4 bolts here, 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and the return and the supply and return. And yeah, so I believe, like I said, I haven't done this before, but you should be able to remove these 4 and wiggle the unit off, and inside there should be a the world's smallest filter, and we should be able to change it there. Now I think what I'm going to do is actually kind of change gears. I'm going to go back below and get the rest of the filter off, or the pan off, and get all the fluid out, because like I said, I'm trying to catch all the fluid, so I got a really good base for my reading when I put it all back in. Well, obviously fresh stuff, but carefully try and wiggle this pan kind of into the drain pan there. Still got a bit of fluid coming out as I lower this second last bolt here. Alright, so that's the last bolt out. Now I'm just going to carefully pour the rest right into there. Perfect. Well, it didn't spill a single drop. Alright, let's have a look at this pan. Alright, so here's the filter pan. I had it rigged somewhere, but holy, look at that. like it's like sludge. That's all the, I don't imagine this was ever done to this vehicle, but I imagine that's all the break-in material and transmission breakdown over the years. There's two magnets in here. See if I got any, I'll get some brake parts cleaner. Now I noticed the gasket did not come off with the pan, so it's still attached to the transmission, so we definitely want to make sure we take that off before we try to install our new one. Now these should just peel right up. Oh yeah. There's two little indents on the actual transmission pan where these pretty powerful magnets seem to sit. Weird. Alright, I'm going to give this a good cleaning, and we will we'll get our gasket back on. We'll see about mounting this biatch. Oh, I just realized before we go ahead and mess with the gasket, we probably should change the filter. That's kind of the reason we're here. So, alright, so yeah, it should be 4 bolts, still 10 millimeter. Alright, so I just wanted to show you guys quickly. I kind of did it off camera, but there's 3 bolts. One of them's longer than the other 2, and then this transmission filter, basically the O-ring is kind of holding it up in there. So you just give it a light tug and just be prepared. There will be fluid flying all over the place, and then dump it upside down, and then that'll get all the rest of the transmission fluid out. It's still kind of dribbling a little bit, but pretty much it's done. So I'm going to go ahead, like I was saying, peel this old gasket off, which is very thin. Alright, so I went ahead, I got myself a razor blade. I just ever so gently got underneath this OEM gasket. It's really, it's a hard gasket, and I was just being careful. I didn't want to crack it or damage the surface of the transmission, right? Because the new gasket's going to go on, and I don't want no leaks. So I'm just going around nice and easy, popping her off. There we go. That's her. Not a very good practice, but I'm going to use a teeny bit of this old oil just around this gasket. Get a bit of a seal going. You should be able to just pop that right up in there. Yeah, and then it holds itself. Like I was saying, there's 1 longer bolt and then 2 smaller ones, okay? So now I know the torque specs for the actual pan. I believe they're around 7 pounds. It's really nothing. So I can't imagine these are much more than that. This is some slippery stuff. Whew. Well, I could definitely see this being a pain in the nuts. Alright, sorry about that. A little bit of work off camera there, but basically there's these little indents where you can push the gasket up, and it'll kind of stay up on the transmission, and then you can start pushing these up and in. A lot of friggin' bolts. I should probably invest in a lift, you know what I mean? Pain in the nuts. Now, the lowest torque setting I pretty much have on this little guy here is 10 pounds. So that's what I'm going to do. Something's not right with that. Because 10 pounds is like nothing, you know what I mean? Let me try that again. I've had problems with this little torque wrench before, basically not clicking. Yeah. Alright, well, to hell with this thing. I'm just going to go by hand. Snug them up. It calls for 7 pounds, so I don't want to damage nothing, you know what I mean? So the proper way to do this is start here, 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 and just work your way around, right? Kind of like a tire. So, Jesus. That should be it. I'll just go around and check them all. Oh, I missed one here. That means I missed one here. Nope. Alright, then yeah, just go around, just check them all, make sure you got them. Remember, it's only calling for 7 pounds, so. Alright, that's her. Now, let's, why don't we continue on and get that transmission cooler disassembled. Alright, so it's really not too easy. There's 4 bolts there. It's kind of hard to get the bottom ones. 10 mil. Just start removing those, and then this unit's going to slide right off here. We'll see what's inside of it. Remove the 4 bolts. You can pull that oil cooler unit right off. Don't let this little O-ring fall. It seats perfectly inside of that unit there. You'll see it when you pull it out. Now we should be able to just go in and pull this filter out of here. Just gonna wiggle it. Oh, I got a phone call coming in. I better take it. Alright, see if I can do this with one hand. Should be able to just wiggle this little guy out of here. Now I put my drain pan right underneath this because I know there's obviously a bit of fluid in here. Yeah. Okay, I'm wiggling it back and forth. I got it out. There's a little bastard right here. That is not looking too healthy. Now, looking at it though, I definitely I'm missing a grommet in there. So let me see if I can fish that out. So I was able to go in with a little pair of needle nose sideways and just pinch onto it and give it a little bit of a tug. And looks like it's broke free, so my new one's got grommet already on it, so I'll take a bit of this dirty oil, give her one of those. I should be able to just wiggle that in there, I think. Alright, let me play with this for a minute here. She might be a two-handed operation. Sorry about that, guys. I wish I was able to film this and do the job, but it's just camera angles and lights and two hands. So I was able to put the small filter back in. You got to really give it a good push and make sure that it's stuck in there because it kind of wants to pop off, but you will get it seated in there. And then you want to make sure your O-ring is seated good inside of your actual filter pump here, wherever this thing is, in and out. And start working your bolts nice and easy in a circle kind of thing, opposites rather. Yeah, and we're just going to seal it up now. We'll get ready to measure the fluid, see what came out, and then start adding more fluid. So I got my 4 bolts in. I'm a little bit scared about this seal, this O-ring. I mean, I kept poking at it as I was tightening and trying to get it grooved, seated. You know, it's going to be a pain in the ass. I might just drop the battery in, hook it up quickly, and run the vehicle and see if it starts leaking, instead of putting the box back in and all that crap. That's later though. So, to my knowledge, that is fixed. Now we're on to measuring out all this transmission fluid. So I've got a measuring cup, a 1 liter measuring cup, and a couple old jugs. So we'll see if we can make it work here. Now, this whole fluid's looking pretty nasty. I've got this 5 liter jug at 540 I can pour into. And I got this here measuring cup. Now, this could get messy. Oh man, this fluid is like black. Alright, so pretty much 5 liters. She's right to the rim. Alright, so like I said, it took pretty much exactly 5 liters. Now I've got a little bit of dribble inside of the big pan, and I'm sure there's a teeny bit of, you know, residuals in the smaller oil pan, but I got pretty lucky. I got exactly 5. No, I guess I don't, because these are 9.46. So I'm going to be a little bit short. I'm going to put all 5 of these in, 5 quarts, and I'll figure out what that is in liters exactly. And I guess I'll have to run out and get another bottle. But yeah, why don't I add the 5, start the vehicle up, because I mean I'm going to be pretty close, and then I'll let her cool down, and then I'll do my measurement, and then I'll add probably half a liter or so. So yeah, 9.46 times 5, that ends up with 4.73 liters. So I removed 5, I got 4.73 here. So I'm going to add it, I'm going to go ahead and start the vehicle. So not 300 milliliters isn't going to destroy anything. And then we will we'll do our temperature check with our big dipstick and the ODB2 scanner. And then we'll add some. Alright, so remove that, put that little funnel in there. And yeah, so we're going to add all 5 of these. Everything's sealed up down below. I'll save you the agony of watching me fill these up. So that's my 5 jugs there. Whatever I said, 4.7 something liters. I needed roughly 5, but you know, I think I'm going to I'm just going to go ahead and put the battery back in, just nice and easy there. Put the posts on it, start it up, get it off the ramp. Make sure I don't have any leaks here on this oil cooler, transmission oil cooler, and then if that's all good, I'll shut it down, put the battery back regular, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show you guys how to do the ODB2 scanning tool and get the temperature that way. And we might not have to add any fluid, you never know. Alright, well, a lot happened off camera, but basically I did what I said. I put the battery in kind of temp, hooked it up, started it, and let it idle for a little while. And unfortunately, I had a leak right at that oil cooler. like I thought I would have anyway. So I took it all apart again. I removed the 4 bolts. I made sure that O-ring was seated perfectly, and then I really snugged them up. Like, you know, although there's only 10 mil bolts, you really do have to put some torque to them. And we did it all. Fired it back up, idled it, no leaks. Put the battery tray back in, battery in. Fired it around the block there. I went for a nice spirited rip. And still doesn't have any much more power. I mean, they're just about pathetic when it comes to the power department, but actually that motorcycle has more horsepower than this Jeep. And so yeah, basically at this point, I know I'm about 300 milliliters shy, so I think I'll go, when I have time, I'll go get some another bottle, and I'll just top it up a little bit. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to use my scan tool. Oh, somebody's racing. I wanted to use my scan tool and have a look at this chart. Basically would tell me what my fluid level is supposed to be at. But yeah, unfortunately, when I hooked up my scanning tool to the software, it wouldn't tell me the temperature, unfortunately. So I can't really check it properly. So what I think I'm going to do is just add my 300 milliliters and just kind of monitor it. I think it should be all good. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. Pretty straightforward service. I wanted to scan the temperature and get an actual readout for the measuring, but unfortunately my little Bluetooth scanner wouldn't work. I don't know if it's the truck sensor not giving the temperature, which is probably more likely, because I know that little ODB2 scanner works great on my Ram 1500 and some other of the vehicles I've used it on, so it feels like there's something going on with the Jeep. So either way, I removed 5 liters plus or minus 100 milliliters, and then I added 4.7. I ran the vehicle around the block a couple times, felt pretty good, and I think I'll probably end up going and get another bottle and just maybe top up that 300 milliliters later. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you've got a Jeep Compass, or what is the other one there, Dodge Caliber, or the Jeep Patriot, all 3 of those vehicles are the exact same. Chrysler decided to put pretty much the same parts in all 3 of those vehicles. Not very good parts, but parts nevertheless. So yeah, consider subscribing. We've got lots of videos on maintaining these Jeeps and stuff like that, and we also do like a homestyle type vlog out here. We've got this 10-acre tree farm, Niagara Falls, and well, we got a solid 20 years ahead of us. So if you're into that kind of stuff, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.